The world watches with bated breath as the delicate balance of power shifts in the Pacific. The relentless march of geopolitical events has placed a resurgent Russia squarely in the crosshairs of a formidable alliance. In a theater far removed from the battlefields of Ukraine, the stage is set for a new confrontation, one that could reshape the strategic landscape of the Far East. The echoes of past conflicts resonate as Japan, backed by the United Kingdom and the United States, prepares to challenge Russia's naval ambitions in the Pacific, escalating tensions to levels unseen in decades. This isn't just a military exercise, it's a carefully orchestrated dance of deterrence, aimed at containing a resurgent power and securing vital sea lanes. What unfolds in the coming months will not only determine the future of this critical region, but it will test the very limits of strategic alliances and the resolve of nations. Prepare yourselves, for the coming storm is unlike anything we have seen before. Today, we delve deep into this emerging crisis, examining the key players, the strategic objectives, and the potential flashpoints. We will analyze the significance of naval exercises, explore the history that informs current events, and contemplate the potential consequences of this high-stakes game. We will be taking a closer look into the 5 key chapters that are shaping this critical moment in the Pacific. The shifting tides of power, the historical echoes of conflict, the rising threat from the depths, the emerging Allied response, and the unforeseen future. This complex situation demands thorough examination. Make sure you stay tuned until the end of this video, because at the end, we will be presenting the final and shocking conclusions of this entire matter. Chapter 1: The Shifting Tides of Power. Russia's foray into Ukraine has undeniably altered its global standing, diminishing its once formidable power projection capabilities. The grinding attrition of the ongoing conflict has drained resources and diverted attention, while the expansion of NATO in the Baltic and Scandinavian regions further isolates Russia. Restrictions on its influence in Africa, coupled with these setbacks, create a narrative of retreat and vulnerability. However, the Kremlin's focus now shifts eastward, where it faces a new challenge in the vast expanse of the Pacific. The United Kingdom and Japan, with the tacit support of the United States, are initiating actions that threaten to curtail Russia's naval ambitions in this strategically vital region. This alliance challenges Russia's traditional dominance in the Pacific, disrupting its access to the open ocean and potentially changing the region's balance of power. This unprecedented level of international collaboration has created a situation never seen before in the Pacific theater. These are new times in global politics. The joint efforts between the UK and Japan are aimed at establishing a new security architecture in the region, effectively limiting Russia's operational flexibility. This plan, set to fully take effect by 2025, marks a turning point in the region's power dynamics. This partnership could serve as a blueprint for how Western nations and their allies can counterbalance Russian influence. This is not just about restricting Russia's movements in the Pacific. It's about reshaping the geopolitical environment, demonstrating the combined strength and resolve of Western allies, and establishing a precedent for future actions. While the immediate focus is on the Pacific, the long-term implications for global power dynamics and international relations are immense, particularly given that the Chinese are also watching these shifts very carefully. Chapter 2: The Historical Echoes of Conflict. The tension in the Pacific is not without historical precedent. The rivalry between Japan and Russia stretches back centuries, marked by naval clashes that have shaped the geopolitical environment of the region. The infamous Battle of Tsushima, a pivotal event in the Russo-Japanese War, serves as a chilling reminder of the two nations' past. Here, the Japanese Navy delivered a devastating blow to the Russian Baltic Fleet, fundamentally altering the balance of power in the Far East. The Tsushima Strait, not only a site of past battles but also a crucial passage for naval forces during the Cold War, symbolizes a continuing competition for regional dominance. During the Cold War, the strait was the only option for the Soviet Pacific Fleet to reach both the Pacific and Indian Oceans, a fact that Japan's self-defense forces were extremely aware of. This historical awareness is now deeply embedded within the national psyche, contributing to the current level of wariness between these nations, as they are in a constant state of high alert. In a historical parallel, Soviet submarines, similar to their predecessors, were compelled to navigate the Tsushima Strait. The strait became a focal point of a technological cat-and-mouse game, as Soviet subs tried to outmaneuver Japanese observation posts. The cat-and-mouse operations included Soviet submarines cutting their engines to avoid Japanese detection, and Soviet corvettes trying to jam Japan's hydrophones. This struggle to maintain naval access and conceal submarine movements adds to the complexity of the geopolitical competition, adding historical depth to the present tension. The region's past conflicts, particularly submarine warfare, continue to shape contemporary military strategies. The historical context of the Pacific remains as a powerful influence on current events. It is impossible to see current situations outside of historical reality. Chapter 3: The Rising Threat from the Depths. Despite the redeployment of Russian ground forces to Ukraine, the Russian Pacific Fleet's submarine force has undergone significant modernization and expansion. With a focus on nuclear ballistic missile submarines, Russia is enhancing its strategic deterrent capabilities in the Pacific, adding a new layer of complexity to the region's security landscape. The increased activity of Russian nuclear submarines north of Japan raises serious concerns, potentially straining the deterrent resources of the US-Japanese alliance at a time when the Chinese threat is also rising. This increased submarine activity creates a very tense situation between Russia, the United States, and Japan, with the potential to destabilize the region. It raises the possibility of escalation through miscalculation or unintended confrontation. This is further complicated by the historical emphasis on submarine fortresses, or designated areas of operations that are heavily defended, such as the Sea of Okhotsk, which adds another layer of complexity and the potential for strategic miscalculation. The fortification of the Sea of Okhotsk as a de facto submarine sanctuary also poses a serious challenge to the Allied forces, particularly given Russia's deployment of advanced weaponry in the area. This area has become increasingly important to the Russian military. During the Soviet period, the Russians created large fortifications around the Sea of Okhotsk. The 18th Machine Gun Artillery Division was created and sent to the southern Kuril Islands. These islands were fortified with surface-to-ship missiles and air defense systems. Additionally, a submarine base was created within a caldera on Simushir Island. This demonstrates a consistent Russian strategy of bolstering naval infrastructure and defense capabilities in this region. These fortified areas represent a significant strategic challenge for opposing naval forces, reinforcing the view that Russia is very concerned about these strategic positions being attacked. Chapter 4: The Emerging Allied Response. In response to these increasing threats, the United Kingdom and Japan, with the support of the United States, are planning a series of joint military exercises in the Indo-Pacific region, starting in 2025. The goal is to solidify security measures, enhance interoperability between their armed forces, and send a clear signal to Russia. These exercises, including the deployment of HMS Prince of Wales, demonstrate a coordinated effort to project power and deter aggression in this crucial region. The exercises are not just about displaying military hardware. They are also aimed at building the collective defense capabilities of the Allied forces. The regular presence of UK vessels in the region signals a long-term commitment to the region's stability and security. This is especially important given the recent rise in tensions in the Pacific. Moreover, Japan's growing concern about the resurgence of Russian naval power, particularly their submarine fleet, has led to a policy shift that involves greater collaboration with Western nations. This collaboration involves not only direct military exercises, but also intelligence sharing and logistical support. Japan is also in the process of developing its own military and is determined to be able to protect itself. This collaboration will give Japan an advantage it previously never had. Furthermore, this heightened level of collaboration reflects a broader geopolitical trend, where nations are increasingly seeking to form alliances to counter emerging threats, demonstrating a unified front against Russian expansionism. Chapter 5: The Unforeseen Future. The interplay between Russia, the UK, Japan, and the US in the Pacific is a complex web of historical animosities, strategic imperatives, and rising military activity. The recent increase in Russian submarine patrols, particularly in the Sea of Okhotsk, has triggered alarm bells in Japan. This is further complicated by increased cooperation between China and Russia in the Pacific theater. In recent years, Russia has allowed Chinese military assets into areas that they would previously consider forbidden, including the Sea of Okhotsk and the Arctic. Furthermore, the combined presence of Russian and Chinese military forces engaging in joint patrols and exercises in the region poses a challenge to the existing security architecture. As these geopolitical currents collide, the potential for miscalculation and escalation looms large. This situation has required Japan to seek out further allies and partnerships in order to contain the increasing threat level. The increased defense spending by Japan, coupled with its growing naval capabilities, shows that Japan is very serious about protecting its borders. The inclusion of the UK in this equation not only provides additional resources, but also establishes a transatlantic partnership capable of challenging Russian and Chinese ambitions. This situation highlights a major change in global politics. However, the future is far from certain. The next chapter in the Pacific will have far-reaching implications for global security. The final act of this geopolitical drama is yet to be written, and the only certainty is the potential for a surprise twist. As the curtain falls on this episode, one thing is clear. The chessboard is set, and the pieces are moving into their starting positions. We have only seen the opening moves of a very complex game, but the story does not end here. While the world focuses on the naval posturing, another, more covert operation has been unfolding. Recent intelligence reports indicate that the increased submarine activity has been accompanied by Russian attempts to map and potentially compromise critical undersea infrastructure, particularly communication cables vital for global commerce and communications. These cables are the lifeblood of the modern world and a potential vulnerability. While the world's attention is focused on ships and submarines, the real danger may be below the waves, and this has the potential to destabilize international relations. This covert campaign, largely unseen, has the potential to completely alter the dynamics of international affairs. The naval game is a distraction for the main show. This unexpected development elevates the stakes, transforming the regional conflict into a global concern.